Hi, Tim Roye from Warriors.com. We continue to prepare for the 2013 NBA draft, just days away now. And to help us get ready for the draft, who better than Jay Bilas with ESPN and, of course, a former outstanding college player in his own right at Duke. And Jay, thank you so much for giving us some of your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. You're affecting your credibility by calling me an outstanding college player. I don't think that my parents would go that far. But I'll take it. Thank you.
You got to take it where you can get it, you know. So as you get ready for a draft and you're going through, tape and doing some work on breaking down these young men's games, what do you look for? What are some of the things that come off the screen to you that you say, oh, okay, this kid's got a chance?
Well, part of it is just from having seen the players play for so long. You get an overall picture of them as to whether they're capable of playing in the NBA, and then you try to refine it from there. And honestly, I think I've tried to change the way I look at it over the years. You used to look at it from the standpoint of trying to get stars because I'm not looking at a particular position or place. In other words, if you're the Golden State Warriors and you're drafting at a certain spot, you're looking for maybe a particular type of player, or you just drafted one guy there. I'm looking at all of the 60 draft picks, and I think you have to look at it as to, instead of worrying about what a player can't do and what'll keep him from being a starter or a star or something like that, you have to really look at, well, what's the success piece of this player? What does he do that can fit into an NBA team? And one of the primary examples right now might be Danny Green, came out of North Carolina in 2009 off a national championship team. He's taken in the second round. I think he's been cut 3 times. And I'd like to find the person that projected him to be a potential finals MVP when he was coming out of college. So, you look for things that the players can do and sort of the intangibles. Are they hard workers? Are they going to improve? But if they don't have a certain talent level and level of athleticism and aptitude, I think they're not going to make it at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Warriors have had more than their share of guys who have been picked late, who have had tremendous impacts. Monte Ellis in the second round. Gilbert Arenas was a second-round pick. Even last year, Draymond Green, who was picked in the 30s, it proved to be a nice impact player for Golden State. And I think, too, Jay, we've all kind of had to change. When we were young and a kid played 4 years and you knew this kid was good and he was going to go, for the most part, most of those guys translated to the NBA. But now they're coming out so quickly, you kind of almost have to figure out, not is he going to help me next year, but is he going to help me in 3 years, and where is he going to be in 3 years and in 5 years down the way?
Well, that's a really good point. That's where the draft has really changed over the last probably 10 plus years. Is there's a developmental component. You used to be looking in the draft for immediate help, and you certainly looked at our guys going to get better and how much better. But now you're looking at a raw material and saying, can this guy play in 3 years? And so I think draft picks have to be looked at as assets. And I haven't done this yet, but I wanted to go back and really put together some advanced data on, how many guys that were drafted 5, 6, 7 years ago, or even 4 years ago, are still with the team that drafted them. Very few, I would guess. And you think you could look at that, but it's something that you say, okay, we're not just drafting a guy for this year, this team. We're drafting an asset that can help us perhaps, if packaged together, get another player or more draft picks or something like that in the future. So instead of just looking at how a guy fits in when you put him on the team for next year, you've certainly got to have a longer-term view. And that's why I think, NBA, NFL, those GMs, the decision-makers in front offices, they earn their money because it is a hard job. And it's hard to make these decisions and have a plan and have to stick to it while you have to win now as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. And when you use the term asset, what jumped in my mind was, well, yeah, you're right, because the fact that the rookies are also on very favorable contracts, which make them valuable pieces in trades, and teams look for those kind of guys that are locked in at a certain rate that won't hurt your cap for a number of years. You were a big guy in college. Let's talk about some of the bigs in this draft, and I'll start with a guy that was on the cover of SI, Cody Zeller. Of course, he's got brothers in the NBA. How do you project his future as a pro?
I think he's been underrated as a future pro. I think there's a developmental piece with Zeller as well, because he hasn't shown yet in college a skill that I think he has. I think he can shoot the ball. So I think he's going to be able to step away and knock down an open 18-footer. He's a skilled player, but not the type of guy that spends his time on the perimeter. He's mostly in the post, 90% of the post actually, but an incredible athlete. He was the best athlete among big guys in the NBA draft combine, and it was by far. Showed great quickness, agility, mobility, and he can really run. I think that's the thing he does better than anything, is he can change ends. So he's a transition big guy that can really run. He's not a big-time rebounder, but a good rebounder. He's a 7-footer, but he doesn't have the arms to match up with that. I think his wingspan comes out to about 6'10 or 6'11, but I think he's going to be a really good NBA player. Is he going to be an all-star? No, but I mean, perhaps not. He could be, but I think he'll be a starter in the league. And, it's funny how a guy like Alex Len of Maryland, even though he's a 7-footer, so it's a little bit different, but, people are talking about, well, his development, and boy, he could really develop to be terrific. And Zeller, for some reason, doesn't get that same kind of benefit of the doubt, if you want to call it that. I think he's been a little bit maligned over the last year because, perhaps he didn't turn out to be, in this 1 year, the best player in the country. He was just a top 10 instead of the best player. He had a really good year.
I see in all the mock drafts that Nerlens Noel is going first, but to me, I look at 206 pounds and I wonder, that's not the. I don't know. Maybe where do you see him? I mean, he can't play 5 at that weight.
Well, no, but that's not his weight really. I mean, he had that injury. So he's been out and he lost some weight as a result of it. So, but still, yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. He's not even 220 when he was at his peak playing weight last year, sort of in the middle of the year. And that's really kind of the issue with this draft. Is a lot of people say, okay, he's the number 1 pick. I don't agree with that. I don't think he's the number 1 pick, but we'll see. But when was the last time we had a number 1 pick where you're saying, boy, he can really guard defensively, shot blocking, steals, he's unbelievable, but he can't score and he's injured. That's kind of a tough sell. But he really can impact the game on the defensive end, and I think he's got a chance to be an all NBA defensive player. But he really lacks polish on the offensive end. He doesn't shoot it. He doesn't make his free throws, and he's got a very limited post game. He gets most of his scoring off his activity level, off his ability to run, offensive rebounds, drop-offs, things like that. But his activity level on defensive end is big time. I just am not sure in this year's draft. I think I would take Ben McLemore ahead of him. Just if you have need, you get a different issue. But I think McLemore is probably a better prospect. He's just got some question marks on his assertiveness. Is he willing to be a leading guy out there? And then I think Otto Porter is going to be a really good player in the NBA. He's a kid from Georgetown. He's got a lot of ability.
Hopefully, one of these years, our paths will cross. Maybe at a Warriors game somewhere, and love to get to meet you in person.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. I'd like that too.
That's Jay Bilas of ESPN. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Jay Bilas. And what a pleasure it was to talk some basketball with him. He's a very interesting man, and as you heard, he has strong opinions, but they're well thought out and well reasoned. I'm Tim Roye. We're getting you ready for the 2013 NBA Draft right here at Warriors.com. More draft coverage coming your way.